Hey guys, Art17 here, and we are beginning week 11 now. And we're going to talk about assignment number 20, which is a monochromatic painting. Now, uh, I'll give you time to do these. If you don't have your paints, go out and get them. You know, you have time. You have all week and then next week, and it should send it to me by the end of next week, which is 2 weeks. So you have plenty of time to do this. And I just want to remind everybody to keep up on your assignments, because if they start piling up, it's going to get more miserable for you to get them in and have me look at them, and then maybe I have some feedback. Certainly on the monochromatic, if you have questions, ask first, because once you painted it, it may be that you can't go back and fix things as well as with graphite when you can erase. So if you have any questions about it, let me know. This is a painting of choice, so it can be just about anything. Monochromatic means that you're using one color, and you get tints and shades of that color with using white or black in the paint. So of course white will make the color lighter and black will make the color darker. And you can have variations of levels of tones or tints and shades as you add more white or less white or more black or less black to your paint. Sometimes it's good to add a little water to the paint, and it flows a little easier, unless you really want to glop it on and have the really very saturated colors. You could do it that way. And here's some examples of monochromatic painting, which is I'm showing blue, purple, there's green, there's red. They tend to work better than something like yellow or orange, because when you use black with yellow and orange, it tends to turn it brown. So I would stay away from black, orange, and yellow, but blue is good to use, and purple works really well. Red and green. Of course, purple is from uh, red and blue. But you could stay with the primaries, which would be the blue, red, or green, and they work just fine. So what you're doing is, let's take an example with this one. So you see the white in there, you see the black in there, a little bit of black, and then you back it off and you add your color to the white, and you get a really, really pale blue. And then on, you add a little more blue to the white, a little more blue, you're going to get darker and darker and darker. Pretty soon, you're going to get back to the actual color that came out of the tube, or whatever you're using, if it's liquid or more liquid paint. And this should be acrylic, of course. You could try watercolor if you have used it before, but it's a little more difficult to work with if you have not used it before. Essentially, you're using the white of the paper to make your lighter tones, and so it's a little more difficult if you haven't used it before, because it's a very transparent paint. It lets the white of the paper come through, which lightens up the tint or shade of your color you're using. And you have to work with that, and it's a little more difficult than acrylic. But if you have worked with watercolor and you think you could do this in a watercolor and you want to, then go ahead. But I would suggest acrylics. Acrylics, not unlike oil, don't take so long to dry, and you can let it dry and keep painting if you want to add on to your painting where paint is already there. But you can count at least, 7 different levels of light and dark blue here, using black, of course, to darken it, and the white to lighten it. I'll show you a video on that as well. You can check the video out on mixing monochromatic paint for different tints and shades. Okay, but there's various ideas. That's just one. There's lots of these sort of moon ideas with blue because it works pretty well that way. Of course, you can do portraits and seascapes and lots of different things. This is the idea with a silhouette. Of course, the silhouette is either going to be a really, really dark blue or black. But here it's really outlining the different levels of tone you're going to get. White, now just a little bit of blue, a little more, a little more, a little more, a little more, and more. And this may be the blue coming out of the tube here. This one doesn't represent adding black to it as much as this does. I think this blue here, black was added, but very little. Black can go a long way, and you use very little of it. It will come into this darker tone here. But they didn't make it completely dark around. They added a little, it's kind of like a glow where you go back and forth with a little bit of tone here. A different tint and shade of that blue. But then they used the silhouette idea again, which is very cool. All right, and then, you could go this direction as well. So I see, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5, 6 real dark here, and then the white, 7, and maybe a little black, 8. So you got 8 levels of different tone there, but you're using only the green with the black or the white to make it lighter and darker, and that's the idea. So it's mono, 1, chromatic, paint, and the purple works pretty good for that too. So it's one color with black and white. Don't use several colors. Actually, now I look at this, I see what looks like blue back there, so don't do that. No, let's see. This is kind of bordering on the purple. I see kind of different variations that may be going into the more blue purple. There's a red purple. So you have variation in purple because of the two colors involved. And each section here has different levels of the tints and shades of red, because that's how they mixed it up in their palette. So you're mixing on a palette or a paper or some other surface. You can use aluminum foil or you can use wax paper to mix paint. And then if you haven't done this before, use a scratch paper, practice, and see how many tone and tints and shades you can get out of that red, using black to make it darker or white to make it lighter. Then start working on your painting. After you have several examples of the different levels you're going to be able to use. Okay. And then lots of different ideas here. This is showing an array of tint and shade of the blue. With very dark, added black to the blue. Very light, you added the white to the blue. All right, so like I say, stick with the red, purple, or green, because the yellow and orange kind of turns brown when you use black in it. But it can be accomplished, because if you were to use it and create sort of a tan to it, this is like maybe variations of tan, which you could do. But if you're trying to stay to true yellow or orange, it's not going to work all that well when you start trying to darken up the yellow or the orange. Okay. Here's another silhouette idea. There are variations in the tin and shade here. They don't really get very dark though. Maybe down here. I'd really like to see some dark blues in whatever you do. Try to get that together too, like down in here. This is now showing the white in the blue, the white in the blue. Now maybe just a little bit of white in the blue. Maybe this is what came out of the tube, and then it gets really darker down here when they added the black. Okay, so watch the video. It'll show you how to mix the paint and possibly how to apply it. You're going to need a brush or maybe several brushes. Sometimes you can buy you don't need expensive brushes. You can buy maybe a pack of 5 for not very much, 5, 6, $7, or maybe even less. And you're going to pick your color. So if you're going to pick blue, then get a tube of blue. I would say Fellow blue is best. Fellow blue, yeah. And as opposed to some of the other ones. But any blue that's not been mixed, it's a dark blue, will work, or a mid blue will work, or the green or the red. Okay, and I think that's about it. Watch the videos and get started on this one. Doesn't have to be too extensive, as you see the examples here. It depends on how much you want to put into it or what your skill level may be. Plenty of ideas right here on Bing. There's the ball we always are doing in graphite. But you can scroll down here and see all kind of different ideas. And it's up to you what you paint. Okay. We'll talk with you in a couple of days.